We call it people technology.
Well, that is a proper hammering. This is Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 timeout. And we have seen Kolkata Knight Riders perhaps send a bit of a message to the rest of the league that they're not quite done yet when it comes to contention for the playoffs. 10 wicket win that wouldn't just give them the 2 points, but like Ian Bishop said at halftime, along with Deep Dasgupta, that getting these runs quickly could only help their net run rate chances, which could come into the equation come the end of the league phase. Both these fine gentlemen with me. Bish, let's go to you first up. That's a real statement shown by Kolkata. Some muscle flex to remind the rest of the league what they can do on a day that's good for them.
Yes, Ronald, absolutely right. But more than that, I'm not a statement person. You can tell that by the way I usually dress, very uh, economically. What it was for me was a sign of what Brendan McCullum wanted with his openness to play more aggressively in the power play because that was a struggle. The top order playing aggressively. They got the bowling tonight. They got that batting tonight. Of course, it's helped by chasing a small total, but it's a positive sign in the right direction. But they need to build on it.
Yeah, I like what you say there because yes, it's easy. Anybody even out of form could have knocked down a target of 94 deep, but there are more positives than just with the ball for KKR. Venkatesh Iyer looks like he could play in that position now at least for a few games, and Shubman Gill, who had a poor first half of the IPL,
Yeah.
played like a different batter.
I mean, listen, it's only positives for KKR. I can't find anything even remotely close to being negative for KKR. Venkatesh Iyer, also the fact that, I mean, just taking what Bish mentioned forward, someone like, Andre Russell at three. So we might see more of that happening in this phase as well. KKR getting a good start. You might see some like Russell coming earlier. You might see Morgan also coming earlier. Yeah, I mean, all positives for KKR. Absolutely. I mean, this is kind of start they would have wanted for this second phase because I mean, they needed a good start, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd like to dwell on that a little. It's a non-event in a way because Venkatesh Iyer knocked the runs off and there was hardly anything to get. But the fact that Andre Russell came out with three, does that in some way reveal the hand for KKR for the rest of the season, Bish, that this could be something that we see happen, Andre Russell to bat at three for KKR?
Saying that everything
I'm
is set in stone as you go forward. You
sorry,
know
sorry,
that,
Bish.
Deep, you know that
Could
as
you just
well.
could you just start that again? I think I lost you. So let me go to you with that question again. Now I can hear you again. So the slight delay, I think. Yeah, carry on, Bish.
Right,
Under Russell at three,
right,
is that something that we could
right.
see?
I wouldn't be surprised if we see it occasionally, but I don't know that we will see that every game going forward. It's a great
Hmm.
opportunity for him. Let's say he had to just come in and finish the game quickly, just give him another taste of batting, fine. But the way batting lineups go, you sometimes see three guys padded up in a dugout and guys float during different situations of the game. So I think it'll be fluid. I wouldn't say that that is something that'll be set in stone.
All right, fair enough. Now, this break in the tournament, Deep, would we possibly see it having an effect, with the way these games have started? Bish said it looked like RCB were the team that were second from bottom. This is a bad defeat to start with. And for Kolkata, it
Yeah.
almost seems like a new tournament. They could leave the first seven games behind. Could we see that play a role now in the next few weeks?
Definitely, yes. If you've had a bad first leg and this is how you approach the second leg, saying, you know what, forget it, just forget about the first 7 games or 8 games for some franchises. Just look at it as a new season altogether and let's start afresh. I think the break came, I mean, used positively for a lot of these franchises who did not have a good first leg to it. I mean, and obviously for the guys who did well, it is also imperative for them to continue with that, which does not come easy. I mean, for example, someone like an MI, they're not good starters, period. I mean, second half of the tournament is when we say it's MI's, tournament starts now. But yeah, I mean, it's very, very important. Again, I mean, the quick starters generally, traditionally, franchises who start quickly will definitely have an advantage here.
Bish?
Just, well, carry on, really. I mean, we say that that's the way they wanted to start, but I think it's more than that. They would have discussed stuff. They would have discussed where they needed to be at certain points in this restart. They've hit a couple of those targets, ticked a few boxes. I thought Pat Cummins was a big miss for them, but all the other guys stepped up in this contest to limit RCB, who have a lot of concerns to address after this game.
If we
But
talk about
sorry, can
RCB,
I
though,
add
and
here?
yes, please, please, please,
Yeah,
please.
I mean, while KKR were brilliant, right? We also have to accept that RCB were quite poor. And I mean,
Yes.
bowling, obviously, I mean, they didn't have much. So let's not judge KKR. It's a great start for KKR, but they need to carry on. Some of the other teams or RCB on a different day might have played differently. So while they had a really, really good start, but they need to carry on. This does not just set everything right for KKR.
Yeah, it's a fair point. We discussed RCB a bit more, and Bish made the point he wants the Indian contingent to step up. From what we saw today, Bish, it was just the evidence of one game if you want to look at this tournament in isolation, or this half of the tournament in isolation. But is there a significant lack of quality between Kohli, De Villiers, Maxwell in the batting, and then what we saw on offer? Somebody like a Sachin Baby who didn't quite get it going. Is that a concern for you now for RCB?
Okay, did the first half of this IPL not happen? We've had this discussion before. You've been laughing at me all season, yourself and Deep, because of the number three position, which I wasn't happy with. And then you've got Sachin Baby coming down below Maxwell and those guys. So I'm not saying these guys can't play. Don't get me wrong on that. What I'm saying is that if there are other Gaikwad last night, yes, he's an international of a couple of T20 internationals, but he actually won a game off his bat. Paddy Carroll did it once this season. I want to see other players doing it. There must not always be the AB de Villiers. If you win two games for the season, I'm cool with that. But win two. The team needs you. It's a bad game for RCB. They played well first half. They had a bad game to start off the second half. But I have a significant feeling they will continue to get better.
Okay, fair enough. But Deep, let me put the same question to you. Bish makes a very good point. This is pretty much the same team. Washington
Yeah.
Sundar had his place in that team, but he didn't have a great first half. We still feel like Washington Sundar has quality. You know, he can have win your game on his day. In his absence now, I think there's Rajat Patidar in the first half of it, but you've got Sachin Baby and you've got Bharat who came one after the other. Would you be concerned at all if you were RCB, or you're just gonna wait a few more games?
I would be slightly concerned in terms of obviously you
Mm,
mentioned the word quality. Obviously, when you're looking at Washington Sundar, he has that quality. You know he can deliver. But can you say the same for Sachin Baby or some of the others? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful or whatever, but when it comes to quality, I don't know whether they have it in there. I mean, obviously, you paid a lot of money for Mohammad Azharuddin, who's a top order batsman. I
yeah.
don't know. Maybe if this continues, they might look at again Virat coming at three, and someone like Mohammad Azharuddin opening, or maybe Mohammad Azharuddin at three. But yeah, I mean, listen, they've struggled with that number three. Even though when they were winning games, you had Patidar playing, you had even Shaba has actually played at number three. So
Mm,
yeah, I mean, they're looking for the other important thing is why do they need a number three? Because
mm,
they want to use number three as an insurance. If there is an early wicket, then the number three comes in. And as I
yeah.
mentioned before, Maxwell and ABD would have their own, when they would want to come out and bat. So the other thing is because they're not getting that opening stand that they're looking for, so the number three comes into the spotlight. So if they're going to start getting those stands with their openers, you might just not feel the absence of a consistent number three.
Okay, let me call time on this chat because it's one game, and you think for RCB, yes, but you've got something to add, please. I know you do.
Yeah, I just want to throw this out for
Yeah.
the next time, right? It's something to think about. I'm trying to work it out myself. Tim David, he's at RCB,
Mm,
right?
Hmm.
How can you? Okay, I love Wanindu Hasaranga. Could you get
right.
Tim David in to give it more batting? But then it means that you have to get maybe a Shabazz Nadeem back to give you another bowling option because Tim David can play. He can play. I mean, the depth of that lineup, if he is in there, but then you have to supplement it with perhaps a domestic bowler or bowling all rounder. That's something to consider going forward because the form that I've seen that guy in the Caribbean, he's playing too well to be sitting on the bench. But unfortunately, he's more of a batsman, occasional off spinner.
Deep, would you at all be looking at that? Hasaranga was supposed to be his X Factor player. In fairness, he's not got to what he does with his premier skill set with ball in this game. But do RCB
Yeah.
need reinforcement after the game?
I don't think after this game, but something that they can think about. But obviously, I mean, Bish has seen Tim David closely and has followed. Obviously, was there. Yeah, I mean, they can think about it. But I mean, they're two very different kind of players. You got Tim David, who's a batter who can give you a few overs. Hatsranga is the other way around. He's predominantly a bowler who can give you very important runs with the bat. So it again boils down to what kind of a combination you're looking for. You're looking at a batter who can bowl or a bowler you can bat. So I think that definitely is an option on the table. Why not? Absolutely, yes.
Well, just 6 more games for us to try and predict what Virat Kohli would do with an RCB 11. So we'll get to that in a couple of days, shall we? Thank you very much, Deep Dasgupta and Ian Bishop. I joked on the pre-show with we had all those technical difficulties that perhaps you all should invoice for half day after what just 39 overs of action, not 39, 19 and 10, 29 overs of action. Maybe you should consider it very seriously. But gentlemen, we'll pick up this chat in a few days. Thank you, Pradeep and Bish. We will continue enjoying listening to them on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout. Join us tomorrow before the Rajasthan Punjab game. It's a very different second half to the season than it was to the first, or it could be, as KKR has shown today.
We call it people technology.